Seniors, avoid these 3 mistakes with your kids. Being a parent is one of the most challenging yet rewarding experiences in life. As a senior, you've probably seen the world change in so many ways. With age comes wisdom, but also certain struggles when it comes to relating to the younger generation. Many of you might be facing some tensions with your kids, even though you only want the best for them. The relationship between parents and children evolves over time. However, there are certain mistakes that seniors tend to make when dealing with their children, which can worsen the relationship. Avoiding these mistakes is key to maintaining a strong and healthy relationship with your kids. Let's go through 3 critical mistakes that seniors make with their children and why you should avoid them. One common mistake that seniors often make is not respecting their children's boundaries. As children grow older, they naturally develop their own ideas, schedules, and lifestyles. They need space to be their own person and grow into the individuals they are meant to be. But for many seniors, it can be difficult to let go of the roles they have played for so many years. It's easy to forget that just because you've raised them doesn't mean they owe you everything. As kids get older, they start asserting their independence, making decisions that align with their own values and aspirations. It's crucial to recognize that they need the freedom to make these decisions, even if it feels uncomfortable for you as a parent. Holding on too tightly to your children can make them feel stifled, as if they have no room to breathe. Over time, this can breed frustration and resentment, and you may even notice a growing distance between you and your child. Let me share the story of Jennifer, a senior who learned this lesson the hard way. Jennifer loved her daughter, and like many parents, she wanted to stay connected and involved in every aspect of her life. Jennifer's daughter, who was in her 30s, had her own family and responsibilities. Yet, Jennifer felt the need to check in on her daughter several times a day, asking everything from what she had eaten for lunch to who she was spending time with. While Jennifer's intentions were rooted in love and care, the frequency and nature of the calls made her daughter feel overwhelmed. She began to feel like she had little to no space to live her own life. At first, Jennifer didn't realize the impact of her actions. She thought she was being supportive and showing her concern. However, her daughter began to feel suffocated, as though her every move was being scrutinized. She started to withdraw from her mother, even though she still loved her. Conversations became shorter, and she found herself avoiding the phone when it rang, especially if it was her mother calling for the 3rd time in a single day. The more Jennifer called, the more her daughter felt like she couldn't make her own choices without feeling guilty or being judged. The constant interference in her personal space took a toll on their relationship, and Jennifer began to notice that her daughter was less open with her, even about important things. This situation went on for several months until Jennifer realized what was happening. One day, after an uncomfortable conversation where her daughter confessed that she felt overwhelmed, Jennifer finally understood. She had been so focused on staying connected that she had inadvertently pushed her daughter away. She knew something had to change. Jennifer decided to make a conscious effort to respect her daughter's boundaries. She started by acknowledging her daughter's need for space and refrained from calling multiple times a day. Instead, she allowed her daughter to reach out when she was ready. Slowly, their relationship began to improve. Jennifer realized that part of loving her daughter was trusting her to make her own decisions and navigate her own life. She stopped offering unsolicited advice and allowed her daughter to take the lead when it came to making choices about her career, family, and personal life. As time passed, Jennifer found that her relationship with her daughter grew stronger. Her daughter, now feeling respected and trusted, started to open up more, sharing her thoughts and experiences freely. Jennifer learned that sometimes showing love means giving space, and that by letting go a little, she could actually draw closer to her daughter. The boundaries that had initially created distance now became a bridge to a deeper, more understanding relationship. By allowing her daughter to have the space she needed, Jennifer was able to form a more meaningful and respectful connection. Their bond became stronger because they both learned to trust and respect each other's autonomy. It wasn't about letting go entirely, but about finding the balance that allowed both of them to thrive individually while still staying close. A second mistake that many seniors make is not communicating openly and effectively with their children. As parents grow older, they often accumulate a wealth of life experience, which can lead them to believe they have all the answers. They may think that because they've lived through so much, their children should automatically listen to them and follow their advice without question. However, this kind of one-sided thinking can be damaging to the relationship. Communication is a two-way street, and it's essential for both parents and children to listen to each other. It's not about having all the right answers. It's about fostering an environment where both parties can express their thoughts, concerns, and dreams without fear of judgment. Children may not always agree with their parents, but it's crucial to understand where they're coming from and respect their perspective. Take, for example, the story of Harold, a senior who had a well-intentioned but misguided approach to communicating with his son. For years, Harold had been giving his son advice about his career, pushing him to follow the same path he had taken. Harold had worked a stable job for decades, earning a good salary and enjoying financial security. He believed that his son should do the same, thinking that a traditional, high-paying job was the key to a successful life. However, his son had different aspirations. He dreamed of becoming an artist, a path that was far less predictable and financially secure. To Harold, this was a risky and irresponsible choice. He couldn't understand why his son would choose such a challenging and uncertain career, and he pushed him repeatedly to abandon his dream of working in the arts in favor of a more conventional job. As you can imagine, this dynamic put a strain on their relationship. Harold thought his son was being ungrateful for not listening to his advice, while his son felt misunderstood and unsupported. Each conversation about his career turned into an argument, with Harold growing frustrated and his son retreating further into his own thoughts. The more Harold insisted on pushing his perspective, the more his son felt like his dreams were being dismissed. This communication breakdown created a wall between them, and both father and son started to feel disconnected from one another. Harold felt hurt because he thought his son wasn't valuing his experience, and his son felt alienated because his father didn't seem to understand his passion and his goals. Eventually, after a particularly heated discussion, Harold took a step back and realized that he had been so focused on his own view of success that he hadn't taken the time to really listen to his son. He hadn't considered the deeper reasons why his son wanted to pursue a career in the arts, nor had he acknowledged the hard work and dedication it would take to succeed in that field. Harold understood that while he had valuable life experience to share, he needed to open himself up to hearing his son's perspective as well. He began to ask his son more questions about his dreams and what drove him to pursue the arts. Harold also made an effort to listen with empathy and without judgment. Slowly, their conversations began to shift from arguments to meaningful discussions. Harold realized that supporting his son didn't mean pushing him onto a different path. It meant respecting his son's passion and encouraging him to follow his own dreams. As time passed, their relationship improved significantly. They were able to talk openly, with each of them feeling heard and understood. Harold learned that effective communication wasn't about being right all the time. It was about connecting, listening, and allowing room for both sides to express their feelings. By changing the way he communicated, Harold and his son were able to strengthen their bond and find mutual respect, even in the face of differing opinions. Harold came to see that it was more important to be supportive and understanding than to try to impose his own beliefs on his son. The result was a deeper, more trusting relationship that allowed both father and son to grow in their own ways. Another major mistake that seniors often make with their children is offering unsolicited advice. While it's natural for anyone to want to share what they've learned from life's experiences, seniors sometimes fail to realize that their children may not always want or need that advice. There's a fine line between offering helpful guidance when asked and giving unsolicited advice that may not be wanted or welcomed. When advice is offered without being asked, it can come across as controlling or judgmental. This can be especially true when seniors believe they know what's best, given their life experiences. What they often forget is that times have changed, and what worked for them in their generation may not necessarily apply in today's world. As a result, the advice, while well-intentioned, can create tension and push children further away. Take the case of Margaret, a senior who, despite her best intentions, found herself offering unsolicited advice to her daughter on a regular basis. Margaret had raised her own children in the 1980s, a time when parenting practices were different. She had successfully navigated raising 3 children with what she believed were tried-and-true methods. She was proud of her parenting choices and thought that what worked for her would certainly work for her daughter as well. However, her daughter, who was now raising her own children, had a very different perspective. The world had changed dramatically since Margaret had raised her kids, and her daughter was faced with a new set of challenges. The rise of technology, social media, and a shift in societal values meant that parenting in the present day was vastly different. But Margaret didn't fully grasp this. She often found herself offering advice to her daughter, commenting on everything from how to discipline her grandchildren to what kind of food they should be eating. The problem was that Margaret didn't wait for her daughter to ask for advice. She felt strongly that her experience as a mother was invaluable and assumed that her daughter would be grateful for her wisdom. However, her daughter didn't see it that way. She felt like her mother was undermining her ability to make her own decisions. Instead of feeling supported, she felt criticized. It wasn't that she didn't appreciate her mother's experience, but the constant unsolicited advice made her feel like she wasn't trusted to raise her own children. Margaret's intentions were to help, but her daughter's feelings were hurt. Every piece of advice Margaret offered made her daughter feel more defensive, and the relationship between them started to sour. Margaret, realizing that her advice was causing tension, decided to take a step back. She acknowledged that parenting had changed since her day and that her daughter was in a position to make her own decisions. Margaret learned to respect her daughter's parenting choices and only offer advice when it was specifically asked for. This shift in approach helped ease the tension between them. Her daughter began to feel more supported, knowing that her mother was there if she needed guidance but wasn't trying to dictate how she should raise her children. Over time, their relationship became stronger as they found a healthy balance in their communication. Margaret learned that offering advice when asked and respecting her daughter's boundaries allowed their bond to deepen and allowed her daughter to feel empowered in her role as a parent. Avoiding these 3 mistakes, disrespecting boundaries, failing to communicate openly, and offering unsolicited advice, can significantly improve your relationship with your children. In today's world, where family dynamics are constantly changing, it's important to adapt and be open-minded. Respecting your children's independence, communicating effectively, and offering support when needed are key to maintaining a healthy relationship. While it's tempting to give advice or take control, remember that your children are adults who have their own lives to live. By giving them space to make their own decisions, listening to them, and only offering advice when it's asked for, you will be able to build a relationship based on trust and mutual respect. There's no perfect formula for being a parent or a grandparent, but avoiding these mistakes can help you create a positive and supportive relationship with your children. It's never too late to make changes. If you're feeling like there's distance between you and your kids, take a step back and reflect on how you can improve your communication, respect their boundaries, and offer support in a way that feels comfortable for both sides. Relationships take effort, and by being mindful of these common mistakes, you'll be able to foster a stronger and more fulfilling bond with your children.